the community. So started reading books of other leaders as well, like Abu Krizan, Abu Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and so forth. And that is where I sharpened my politics. I learned more, especially when I got to college and joined the South African Student Congress, which is SASCO. I think SASCO played a very critical and crucial role in the foundation of my own political development, especially. I don't know what they were doing with the elections commission, the people who were in charge of elections. We found our votes that were discarded somewhere outside campus, There were lots of shenanigans surrounding those elections, but the way that we campaigned without the resources, because the correct person to lead this organization. I think it's the first time whereby someone is removed as SG. There was so much celebrations within the membership.
There was huge celebrations.
It was across people. The ground forces it was welcomed.
Yeah.
The youth is no longer up 35. To 35. It's now to 30 years.
Yes.
And we're not even given an opportunity to speak our views on that. And there's a phrase that says nothing about us without us. If there was a proper consultation and young people are the ones that said yes, we agree, there must be 30 years talent within Umkhonto weSizwe. There's a lot of talent in the party across. So there's a huge pool that the organization can take from of young people that can go and represent the organization very well there, And I don't think it's only about education, in as much as a unique position or bringing someone completely new who was not in the high command or
like Tony again.
I doubt, but I don't know. Anyone that Ubaba will actually give us and then say this is appointment. So the English and all those political words, they don't mean anything if you can't actually be shape yourself towards that vision of Umkhonto weSizwe that you want to achieve. So Umkhonto weSizwe, it can balance. I believe it can and will continue to balance between those who have been there from the beginning and the new talent and the new capacity that is coming. And all these people must be able to work together towards achieving that dream, that goal that we want to achieve. Commander Grenade is a leader, man. She's a leader. She's one of a type, And I think what she falls victim to by most people is the fact that she's born by the president.
Yes.
Now, so people tend to, when they want to view her, they view her according to her father, to say, no, this one is privileged.
Mashiane Politically Correct. Kitsuri Nyamazad Mo, Kitsuri the young ones that raw. They've been in the trenches for a very long time, and unfortunately, we get to know about them whenever they cause trouble. Whenever they do good, we don't actually know about them. Mchana, how are you?
Hey, I'm well, my brother. How are you?
Thank you. But please, just for the purpose of our elder Nyana viewers, just tell them where you're from, where did you grow up, and then we'll start unpicking your politics and why are you so leftist.
No, thank you very much, my brother. My name is Philani Nduli. That's how my parents named me, but I'm well known as Gazuzu. But mina ngonqakanqa ubandle lomshini noskaflakazi uma double jeans sinembobo into engalali unyamazana mina ke loyo la ngitabuka khona ngitabuka kwaZulu eMgungundlovu that is Pietermaritzburg. I was born and bred in Pietermaritzburg, grew up there in the location of Imbali, but I was moving around from place to place, location to location, because my family was also a victim of violence that were happening in the 90s in KZN. So we had to move from place to place until we could find a stable home. So that is where I grew up, where in Pietermaritzburg, and went to school and did all the things that young people used to do. I used to play soccer as well. I loved soccer. I played soccer a lot. used to be active in church. In fact, my leadership journey started in church when I became the chairperson of the youth when I was 15 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So that is what is about me.
Okay. When about were you born? We just want to find your politics. What influenced you? Was it an era before Julius? Was it an era before? We just want to understand what kind of politics shaped you.
No, I was born in the year of 1993.
Okay.
Yes, in the year that they killed our leader and hero, Comrade
Chris
Krizan.
Yes.
Yes, because my mother would tell me stories that what was happening during that year, that the country almost erupted into a civil unrest due to the assassination of Comrade Krizan. And it was the same year that I was born.
Yeah.
And during those times, obviously, she was already pregnant with me because I was born in October of that year.
Yeah, and Hani was assassinated April.
April,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So, but you do know who is Peter Muka.
Of course.
You do know who Chris Hani is.
Of course, I know.
Sure. And why did you gravitate to the kind of politics that you are doing? What shaped it? And besides the fact that you come from what it's renowned as the killing fields of the KZN Midlands, you know, the Richmond areas, and you know, the Sfiso Gavindes, what shaped you? Because one of the things that we are battling to to define people who are outside KZN is, and I'll give an example. You know, people in the Val would be black consciousness and people who coming from KZN are assumed to be doing nationalism kind of politics, that sort of right-wing nationalism, and
Yes.
and when you emerge, you emerge with the economic freedom fighters. And tell us the journey that brought you to that student politics.
Well, of course, I was born in an ANC home. My mother was actively involved at some point in the ANC Women's League in Nehawu as well. And when they were staying at Umkambatin, and they also stayed at Kwaswaiman. And that is where there was a lot of political violence. They had to move. That is how we went to Imbali. But before that, they went to Matsibisa. But when I was born, they moved to Imbali. So as I was telling you, they were moving around.
Yes.
Because of the violence that was happening. People's houses were being burnt. People were killed, you know. Many things were happening. Even, especially young boys, they were, targeted. Qatar Freedom Party wanting to kill them and all of those things. So that is how I was born into an ANC home, grew up, went to school, and started being involved in leadership responsibilities, especially in church. I come from a Catholic church, Roman Catholic church. My grandmother was Catholic to the core. Yeah, that's how she brought up her children, including the grandchildren, which is us. I was baptized, Holy Communion, all the sacraments that you can think of, confirmation, so I became actively involved. I was exposed to leadership through church. But in my journey, and when I was in grade 9 in high school, in the English subject, we had to study the book of Nelson Mandela, which is The Long Walk to Freedom. That book we were given to study. I think it was for the whole year that we were supposed to study, but I completed it, reading it less than a month. That's how intrigued I was, interested. I was like always glued to the book. It's like the youth of today who are always glued to their phones.
Yes.
I mean, my book, I was always, to a point that even my mother used to shout at me, "Hey man, you are always getting this book.
Yes.
Hey, you are not doing your chores, man. Hey,
Sure.
man." So I was intrigued by what I was reading about this man, his about the story about his life, his contribution to the struggle, his leadership skills, his uprightness. I was really inspired to a point that now I started beginning to have a huge interest in politics after reading that book. And immediately after that, I joined the ANC Youth League in my ward, in the community, because at that time I had not yet qualified to be a member of the ANC.
Yeah.
Because you need to be 18 years or older
Sure.
to be ANC. By that time I qualified to be the Youth League. So I joined And after a year joining the ANC Youth League, I was elected into the branch executive committee. Being given a responsibility now, of which I always, like any task that I'm given, I always want to, push it and be a success story and ensure that I deliver, because I don't like to lead something that fails. So from a young age, I had that passion that, I need to move. And in the community, in the world, I became a very popular figure, to a point that when AGMs used to sit in PGMs, about this thing of quorum. You needed to collate a certain number of people needed to be there. I then became a person who they relied on, who can bring people into meetings. They knew that when a PGM is coming or AGM, they need to come to me and ensure that they ask that I assist in the mobilization, because I can bring the people out and fill up the hole in the community. So started reading books of other leaders as well, like Abo Krizana, Abo Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and so forth. And that is where I sharpened my politics. I learned more, especially when I got to college and joined the South African Student Congress, which is SASCO. I think SASCO played a very critical and crucial role in the foundation of my own political development, especially at an ideological and political literacy level. Yeah.
And student command.
Well, to tell you the truth, as I told you that I was also a member of SASCO. Through SASCO, I was elected to be the SRC president of TVET College in 2011. And in 2012, I was elected as the Secretary General of the SRC. In the same year, I was elected as the regional chairperson of SASCO. And then after some time, due to the struggles of students that were pushing, I was expelled in the TVET College that I was studying in TVET College. And then that pushed me that I must go back to school and get a matric, because I left school before attending matric to do what you call the NCV. You know that
the
course?
Nated courses.
Yes, not Nated, NCV.
Oh no, the NCV, the one that replaced the the one that replaced the Nated courses.
The one that you do after grade 9.
Yes.
So there's level 2, which is equivalent to grade 10. Level 3 equivalent to.
So you do the bypass. We call it the bypass.
Yes. I think my mother her friend took her son to a TVET. So then she was also like, now you need to go there.
Yes.
Like you see, so, and then she took me out of school. Then I went there to the TVET College, and then that's where I became very actively involved politically, to a point that I led protest when I was leading there, to a point that I got expelled from the institution. So now I thought, no, I need to go to a proper university, let me go and fix my issues. I went and did my matric, and then in 2016, I went into DOT. Now coming into DOT, there were a lot of changes that happened, because in 2013, I was not only expelled in the TVET College, but also we lost a conference, a SASCO Congress, which was in Venda. We're pushing Mfana Futngobi, he was the provincial chair of KZN at that time. So we're pushing him to be president of SASCO. But then we were defeated by a guy called Duduzile Komboti. He was the deputy president, and then he ascended to the presidency. So immediately after they defeated us in the Congress, they came back to purge all of us that were supporting, the slate that lost.
Yeah.
So we pushed out.
Sure.
And that's when I even met Bongos Kanyile. We met in SASCO. He was leading Durban South region, coming from MUT at that time. And I was in Gumundov, leading Gumundov region as a chair, and I was a secretary in Durban South. So we're all part of that faction.
So what year is it when you met Kanyile?
It was that year of 2012, 2013,
okay.
Those years when we were in SASCO. So they purged us, we were removed completely from SASCO, expelled, and remember, during those years, there were also dynamics unfolding in the ANC Youth League, where Abu Julius were expelled from the ANC and all of that. So there was a shift, politically within the mass democratic movement. So a lot of our comrades in the Youth League, they left with Abu Julius, someone, and so forth. So in 2015, after we were expelled in 2013, and then in 2014, we started engaging with the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA. NUMSA as well, it was having its own issues within COSATU. And at some point, I think they were expelled or they pulled out. Yes, they were expelled from the COSATU. So NUMSA wanted to form a united front, similar like the UDFs in the 1980s, but now in the new dispensation, a united front of students, professionals, workers, communities, and all of that, who are going to fight the neoliberal policies of the ANC, going to fight the ANC government to ensure that the working class takes over the state and usher in socialism in this country. So we're actively involved in that. Myself now and the Bongos Kanyile and some comrades in SASCO were also involved. We then formed a student organization which affiliated under the United Front, which was formed by NUMSA, which was ALUTA. It was called ALUTA, that organization. We launched it in DUT, we launched it in some TVET colleges, but that project, it didn't succeed. It collapsed, especially because NUMSA was not sure what it wanted. Because after some time, it then wanted to form a political party now. If you remember what it was called.
They frustrated even Jim at the time.
Yeah, SRWP.
It was frustrated.
Yeah, it was called the SRWP, that political party. And so after that, we felt like, what they are doing here, there's no progress. There's no... At the other side, Julius Malema and the EFF, they are in parliament now. Remember, it was after the 2014 elections. They are bringing fire into parliament. Their voices beginning to find resonance on the ground across the country. People now are beginning to be interested in parliament and so forth. And they're speaking the language that we are also believing in, the ideas and the policies. And we sat down and said, comrades, here's the organization which is speaking the same language. It's more organized, it's promising, it has young people, and so forth. Why don't we take our energies, we take our talent, we take and go and invest in an organization? We need to have a political home. You cannot usher in change in society alone as individuals. You need to be organized as a certain group and have a political home. And that's why we took a decision to join the Economic Freedom Fighters. And when I came to DUT in my first year, 2016, I was immediately appointed as the branch chair of the EFFSC in DUT Durban, because I found that the branch there, it was in disarray. People were demoralized. I think they've contested elections before and they were losing to SASCO dismally, and there was no sense of direction. And I quickly told them, gave them confidence that I've experienced in this thing, allow me to lead this ship. I'm going to take the EFFSC to greater heights. And they took a chance with me. And obviously, I found Kanyile also studying at DUT. He was already there, and he also became a member of the EFF. He was also part of the people who were backing me to be the chair of that branch. And indeed, after they gave me the chairperson position, I started with the mission, drew up a plan of action from here until elections. This is what we're going to be doing. Almost every day there was an activity that we're doing. Going to races, we're doing class to class, engaging students, exposing the limitations of the current SRC, which was led under SASCO, popularizing the EFF. And when I joined there, I think there were about 6 or 7 EFF members. But after a month or so, already we're able to fill a hall, with new members, and we started having programs. The branch started to grow very exponentially. Grew and to a point that EFF became a threat to SASCO. In fact, I argue that in that year we won the elections, but we were robbed by SASCO. And even the ANC chair that time, Sihlezi Galala, came to DUT. I don't know what they were doing with the elections commission, the people who were in charge of elections. We found our votes that were discarded somewhere outside campus. There were lots of shenanigans surrounding those elections, but the way that we campaigned without the resources, because SASCO, it's aligned to the ANC, which is in government, and they will have resources. They will bring T-shirts. They'll bring about Pepsi Doom on campus. They will give students chocolate, Powerades, and we had nothing. we only had those few T-shirts that we
Sure.
was activists only. But we started a campaign to say, SASCO my T-shirts, EFF my vote. We told the student that take those, if they give you T-shirt, take it most. You can even sleep with it at night. It became a joke. Take the vote, but don't vote based on a T-shirt. Vote on your conscience. Vote based, remember what SASCO has done. They've sold you out. You are currently having issues with NSFAS, with funding issues. You have issues at rest. A T-shirt won't rescue you from those issues.
Sure.
So we provided an alternative to students, and we became a very popular brand on campus to a point that we played even a critical role towards ensuring that the DUT as a university joins the Fees Must Fall movement, because it's us as the EFF that went to engage the SRC, went to engage SASCO, Silita Nabokanyile, to tell them, comrades, the struggle has started. Now, you can see what is happening. DUT can't be silent. We can't not join the struggle, because what they are fighting for is affecting us as well, So I don't know what happened, because usually those comrades, they usually sell out. They don't like to do things, in a genuine and a revolutionary way. But they agreed to that. I don't know for what reason, but they agreed. And indeed, we mobilized the students. We presented the United Front, mobilized the students. And this happened after elections. Presented the United Front, mobilized students, shut down campus. And indeed, it was...
That's 2017 shutdown.
2016.
2016.
Yeah, it was a massive protest, and that is where Bonkos Kanyile was arrested in that year. So it was a very difficult time at that time, because we were targeted, obviously, by the minister, Zuma. He had a problem with Kanyile as someone who was a popular figure in the Fees Must Fall, in the struggle. Even myself, in fact, we had history with him from Mgungundlo of TVET College. He used to say that he doesn't want chaos in his background because he's from Pietermaritzburg. So he was always angry. What was this guy who's busy making students to strike in my hometown? So,
please talk about the charge. Sorry to disturb you. Talk about the charge of you. Were you suspended or were you removed for addressing students? What was the actual charge?
At Mgungundlo of TVET?
Yeah.
The charge sheet was long. I remember there were many things.
Was it not DUT where you were charged for speaking to students, for addressing students?
Yes, at DUT.
Okay.
Yeah, that was another year.
Yeah.
But in Mgungundlo of TVET College, it was what was the charges gone? It was illegal gathering.
Yeah.
It was intimidation. It was malicious damage to property, instigating violence, and those charges. So that is how they actually. In fact, that time I think they were charging me for the second time, because the first time I won the case, and the other time 9 of us as comrades, they dealt with us, were removed from the college. Abo Lungsangubo, Prince Nkomo, Abo Gifty, Abo Nambesa, Abo Beki, Jili. Like there were around about 9 of us who were dealt with.
So allow me to do this, because I want to jump to the current. So you are in the formative stages of the student command. Now, let me rather say the Fees Must Fall era with Bonkos Kanyile, who nationally was at the time around the same era. Who are your contemporaries in the EFF at the time? Because we know, of course, the example is Dlamini and others. Who were you working with from the EFF, from the ANC, I just want to know your contemporaries.
Well, in that generation of ours, there were many leaders like Above Yan Pambo from VETS, Gwaguna Bonaleti Chira from UP, who's MP now today, Gwaguno Osnaw Tambo from the Western Cape, kwakuno Edwin, kwakuno Kamvelishe Koba in the Fallist movement, Otumani Makwele, somewhere from the PAC, obviously.
There was so this generation of fallists, Rhodes fell at the time, and I think, to be fair, I think you need to paint this picture. You guys have been calling out for this fallism for a long time, and it was when Rhodes and Vets joined together that this thing started escalating, right? Because you guys have been doing it. I remember Soshanguve campus was pushing very hard, but it was not taken to heart. It was only when Rhodes and Vets started doing this because it involved white students, and this is when this thing escalated. Just in short, just remind us of that era. And there was a beautiful young woman. She's dark in complexion. I don't know if she fell to the ANC. I remember they said she went to parliament. She's one of the faces of that campaign. Do you remember her name?
She's from Vets.
Yeah, I think it's her. Yeah,
it's her. It's from the ANC.
Yes.
No, yeah, you are correct, my brother. Indeed, the struggle of free education is very old. As I'm telling you, that we've been shutting down campuses from 2012, 2013, and there were generations before us.
Yes.
They were also leading those struggles. We once had a SASCO provincial march, I think it was in 2013, where we shut down the streets of Durban, and we had serious numbers of students who were there. But obviously, as you are saying, that the former white institutions or those UCTs and VETs, when they are the ones who now joined the struggle and took a conscious decision, because obviously in those particular universities, black students were feeling very oppressed due to the white culture in those institutions. That is why they were saying free and decolonized education. So there was a decolonial project that was brewing to say that these institutions do not represent us as Africans, do not represent our ideals as black students, So that is why Tumani Makwele was the one who actually took human feces, and went and poured to the statue of Rhodes at UCT. And that's how actually the fallist movement started to begin.
Yeah.
And then around that time, there was open... What was that campaign? There were many campaigns. That was the Open Vets or something, whereby it was saying that more people must be access to these institutions because they were limited in terms of Africans and black people who could, access these institutions. Indeed, the minister is going to announce an increment during that time, an increment of fees. Then it went into fees must fall.
Yes.
And then it caught fire across the country. And obviously, there was a lot of media attention because now it dealing with white students and white bodies. Because in this country, white people are taken seriously more than black people. They are significantly important. So then there was a lot of media frenzy around the Fees Must Fall movement, and then it caught fire and spread across the country, So, but it was not something new for us, especially from the former black institutions, the universities of technologies, where year after year will shut down campus based on the issues of fees, based on the issues of accommodation affecting students. So it was not a new thing to us, but we said that we cannot, because let's say Vets and started go UCT, now we're not going to join because we had to take the opportunity.
Yes.
As a revolutionary, when the opportunity presents itself to push the revolution forward, you don't think twice. You need to, because there's a quote that says that the revolution won't be televised. There's no date and time and place, so you don't know what actually will spark the revolution that will overthrow those who are in power, who are oppressing us. Because even if you can look at the Russian Revolution, Abu Lenin were mobilizing the people, trying by all means to overthrow the Tsar. But what sparked the revolution was when the Tsar government closed a newspaper which was free. It now wanted to charge the citizen, and then it sparked the fire. People protested, it will lead towards the overthrow of the Tsar government.
Sure. So, rushing it back to now, the reason I wanted to paint this picture is when you guys were now the seniors of students, and MK came, and I did not want us to talk about how MK arrived, but MK came, you started mobilizing and organizing students and young people within MK, and you hit a stumbling block, and amongst yourselves you decided that no, man, you guys have identified this stumbling block, and this stumbling block in terms of your operations, and I want you to correct me, was none other than Floyd Nkosibambo. And what internal the processes did you engage within before you gave up and exploded outside? What were the processes that you went in to say, let's rectify this inside MK, because you are dedicated cadres and very disciplined? What were they? Because the other people, we just saw you guys, venting out of the movement.
Of course, we engage in a lot of processes. Part of those processes is writing. We wrote to leadership, complaining about the way that things are now being done in the organization, and all of those things. After writing, we then took a decision now to go and meet leadership, to consult. I remember there was one time, there was a high command meeting which was happening in Johannesburg. We decided to go there and protest, wanted to storm in the meeting, but we were told, no, must be disciplined. Ubaba is going to see us and so forth. Unfortunately, that day, Ubaba was rushing a flight. We could not speak to him. And so he organized the meeting whereby we met him in Ganja to speak about all these issues that we had. And obviously, Ubaba Zuma will lend you an ear, will listen to you, and hear your cries and so forth. It was a long process, I can tell you. Before I took a decision in myself to go to the media via a podcast I did with DJ Sbu, to actually paint a picture and make the public aware what is happening and communicate a message to the members across Umkhonto weSizwe, because the man was not leading us correctly. In fact, today I'm vindicated, because after that podcast, I was vilified, I was insulted. People were saying I was ill-disciplined, I'm wrong. Some even said my political career is over, I've ended it, how can I attack Floyd, who I am?
But at the time we knew, and even those people that knew, they were just blaming you for going out. They knew you were raising valid points.
Exactly. So we're happy with the decision that is taken by the organization, and we trust the wisdom of Ubabu Ungamalala. One thing, President Zuma, he doesn't act haphazardly. He takes his time to process things, to give people an opportunity to listen to the people and so forth. At the end of the day, he has taken this decision. The organization has taken this decision, and we welcome it. And we wish Floyd well in his journey in Parliament, because he has been in Parliament. He has experience of more than 10 years while he was still in the EFF. And I think we need that experience in Parliament, and so that now the organization can start now to revive itself, to rebuild itself, of all the wrongdoings and all the, the foreign tendencies which have engulfed Umkhonto weSizwe, because a lot of comrades have been demoralized, especially who were there in the beginning, when we were starting Umkhonto weSizwe, when we were campaigning with a zero budget, sacrificing our own money, sacrificing our time, we sweat blood for this organization, And by me saying that, I even explained when I was speaking to Sbu that it's not saying, we don't mean that new people must not come into Umkhonto weSizwe. It will be foolish for doing that, because obviously we want to take over the country, and you can't take over the country if you don't welcome new members. You can't grow if you are like that. Yes, new members must join the organization. They must be part of Umkhonto weSizwe, welcomed warmly in the organization, but they must not come here with a sense of entitlement to the organization, undermining the contributions that members who have been there, who have been doing, and undermining the culture that Umkhonto weSizwe has, coming to bring a foreign culture where you are coming from. We're a new organization, we are all coming from different political backgrounds, different political parties. So Umkhonto Wesizwe is a new entity altogether. So it has its own life, its own culture, and we must preserve it, we must build it, and ensure that the organization moves. So the organization is growing, it's moving forward, and come 2026 next year, we are going to be taking the municipalities like nobody's business. We'll be winning the wards, we'll be winning the PRs, we'll be having MMCs, we'll be having mayors across the country. Because already we have already begun that journey. You can see what has been happening in the recent by-election. So Umkhonto Wesizwe is an organic organization. In fact, it is a movement. It is not a political party. That is why we have the chiefs, the traditional leaders, traditional healers, we have artists, MK creatives, we have students, we have workers within Umkhonto Wesizwe, we have every sector of society is represented in this organization, and it's the only organization that will be able to defeat the ANC and usher in the total freedom and emancipation of the black African people in this country.
In particular, there's this thing I'm always challenged on the podcast by people in the comments when I tell them that, and it's unfortunate, the person that they don't love, Mary Party, always insisted as well to say, you guys have no idea what the initial I don't even have a word, because I don't want to use the way that you guys are nicknamed as landlords. The people who came first in this organization, you made it work through blood, sweat, and tears, and through sacrifices from your families. And I would even tell them that it was an investment. People decided, is this money going home or this money going to a program? And for someone to come and make that sacrifice as if it's nothing, you are only going to make people angry.
Of course.
You might do it and just to please people, to say how you are investing your own money, but it doesn't remove the pain.
Well, of course.
Because
of course.
You guys have investors. When I spoke to Sihle Ngubane, I said to him, there's a delicate balance that you guys need to do as MK. Capacity must come in. You welcome it, but it must not be. You know, when you parachute people, it's always has to be justified. Why are you removing this one and putting this one? The constituency must understand, and it's a very difficult thing. And I'm not saying, I would even point it out that even EFF has failed at doing that thing, because the ground forces were really at pains when they were seeing people jump into positions. How difficult is it, according to you, because you sit with ground forces more than I do? How difficult is this delicate balance, and how do you think this balance must be struck between people at MK? How do they understand it and how it's implemented?
Yeah, no, you are raising a valid point, my brother, and I think the glue that holds the organization together, it's actually President Zuma, and we trust his wisdom. Even when he took Floyd, we welcomed him, and we accepted that Ubaba knows what he's doing, and appointed him and so forth. And we rallied behind his leadership, only for him, to actually do all those things to prove to us that he's not actually the correct person to lead this organization. I think it's the first time whereby someone is removed as SG. There was so much celebrations within the membership.
There was huge celebrations.
It was across. The ground forces, it was welcomed. There was consensus across the members of the organization. Obviously, someone who's far away, who's not active, who's not a member of Umkhonto, will not understand because they know Floyd, because Floyd has been in the political space. He has a political knowledge, he's politically, grounded, ideologically grounded, English,
Yes.
See, this man is intelligent and so forth. But that's not what we only need in an organization, We need a leader that can be able to build, a leader that can work with the people, that can humble himself. Because Umkhonto Wesizwe, it's here to decolonize the country and ensure that we put an African system, And parts of Africanism, it's humility, it's humbleness, it's the respect, it is a value of another human being, another person, Doesn't to say because now we are leadership, now you think you are the best thing that has ever happened to humankind. Others don't matter. It's only you who's important, only your view must be listened to. And Zuma is exactly opposite of that. He is exactly the African leader. That is why Umkhonto weSizwe has so much support. That is why President Zuma is supported so much. He's even a former head of state. He has achieved the greatest achievements in politics, but he still humbles himself. He's accessible, he is approachable, he has humility, respect for every member of the organization. That is the kind of leadership we want, especially since Umkhonto weSizwe is the government in waiting, is the government that is going to take over. We don't want to appoint to have a situation where now we're a government and we have arrogant leaders that you can't access, that you can't approach them, that you can't correct them, that you can't tell them that you are wrong here, that can't be called into order. That is a huge problem. So the English and all those political words, they don't mean anything if you can't actually, shape yourself towards that vision of Umkhonto weSizwe that they want to achieve. So Umkhonto weSizwe, it can balance. I believe it can and will continue to balance between those who have been there from the beginning and the new talent and the new capacity that is coming. And all these people must be able to work together towards achieving that dream, that goal that we want to achieve, the objectives that we want to achieve of total emancipation of the African people.
So let me throw a few questions and sit back and so you answer. For people who don't understand, others would accuse you of tribalism, others would accuse of you do not want him because he came from the EFF. And this is why I wanted to paint a picture that says you yourself, you come from there and you were cooked in the same pots as Floyd from the EFF, from the ANC. You come from the same formations. So it can't be because they come from different political ideologies. So I want you to paint this. What in particular were the Floyd errors or were the things that made Floyd persona non grata on the ground forces? You are not the only one. I'll speak to a lot of ground forces that would tell me the errors, the arrogance, the refusal to meet people, the refusal to go to branches. He only go to where he benefits anything. But I don't want to speak on your behalf. I want you to say that. And then when you're done, just talk about the Huvo in Bela Bela, Limpopo. There was an expectation that the Huvo meeting would chart a path for MK. And then, while we're still looking for the Hoover agreements and stuff, Floyd brings a constitution, and you have characterized that constitution as the Floyd constitution that made a lot of people very angry. And for all that they know, is the Floyd constitution that got Floyd fired. So it's a long story, but unpack it for us so we understand.
Of course, my brother, people they tend to use propaganda, to push their views through, to say that no, the reason why Floyd is being removed, it's because that he's a Tsonga, he's not a Zulu, which is not true, which is absolutely hogwash. Because Umkhonto weSizwe, it's a non-sexist, non-tribal, non-racial organization. Everyone is welcomed in Umkhonto weSizwe. Even before himself, Floyd, they joined the organization of Umkhonto weSizwe. We're having members from Limpopo, members from Northern Cape, members from Western Cape, Eastern Cape, Northwest, Mpumalanga. We have Ndebelezi in Umkhonto weSizwe, we have Swatis, we have Bedis, we have Tongas, we have Sothos, Tswanas. Everyone is in Umkhonto weSizwe. And that is particularly because of the footprint of our president and leader, President Jacob Zuma, as a national figure. He has a following in all these provinces, which then culminated into them becoming a membership of Umkhonto. It's not like someone who was only known in KZN, who started an organization and only joined by Zulus there. It's like a regional, tribal, cultural, narrow Zulu organization. Umkhonto is not like that. It's indeed the opposite of that. So people will just want to use those things, just to defend all the wrongdoings and the ill tendencies that Floyd Shivambu was doing in the organization. So it's not true. It's not true at all. So there are many things, of course, we have counted them, my brother, that has made him, and made ground forces to be angry and wanted him to be removed. Part of those things is this arrogance, Arrogance is not humble, doesn't greet people. Floyd will just walk in the room and just look at you. It doesn't recognize that there are people here, they are comrades. It doesn't have that Ubuntu and that spirit of comradeship, you know, that comradeship, that like you love your comrades, you know, you love them. When you see them, you become happy. Hey, they are my brothers in the revolution. Hey, yeah, my sisters, and they're, hey, comrades, how are you? You know, that spirit, because Uche Kuvara teaches us that a revolutionary is guided by the great feeling of love. You love the African people, you love your fellow comrade, you love the people. That is why you are engaged in the revolution, you know. So, yeah, now it's like a total opposite of that. The way that he conducts himself, he moves and do those things. And one of the things that, you know, he actually done wrong was this thing of wanting to centralize power too much, you know, not allowing leaders, you know, the opportunity to lead, do their own things in their provinces, you know, but only guide as a national leadership, guide, advise, and also listen to them, you know, recommend, yeah, because at some point I even heard that he said even the printing of t-shirts must no longer be done in provinces. It's only him who must print t-shirts there. And Umkhonto is a big organization. People, they want t-shirts everywhere. So, you know, t-shirt must be printed.
Yeah, you need a big warehouse for you would need packers, you would need logistics managers.
You know, so those things were holding the organization back. And what put the coffin, the nail to the coffin, exactly that. This constitution that he came with, this constitution in which there was no consultation with the members of the, you quoted very correctly that there was a Huvu, which I was also a delegate. I attended in Bela Bela in Limpopo. We were there, we engaged, there were discussion documents that were given, the theory and character of Umkhonto were organizational building and so forth, all those documents which we contributed. And we were made to believe that we're still going to have a second Hoover whereby now everything will be finalized. Those views of the people will be consolidated and then we have something that is unified. No, and it just comes with its own constitution, making a lot of changes. And part of the thing that disgruntled us as young people in Umkhonto was the changes that he made in terms of the age. The youth is no longer up
35.
to 35, it's now to 30 years.
Yes.
And we're not even given an opportunity to speak our views on that. And you know, there's a phrase that says nothing about us without us. If there was a proper consultation and young people are the ones that said, yes, we agree, there must be 30 years, this thing I was going to accept it. But now someone who's not a youth, he comes and imposes to us. And himself, he let the youth click. Even above his 30s, he let the youth click. And now he wants to come now and impose 30s on us. And we were actually very disgruntled about that, to say, no, why? What is the reasoning? What is the rationale? Because we must bring us into a venue, into a hall or somewhere before we engage. You must actually explain to us what is the rationale behind this thing. Or convince us why it's only those who are 30 and less who must be in the youth, while the government, the policy of the country, it says 35. Why is Umkhonto now reducing it to 30 years? So we're very angry and bitter about that.
Is it true that, of course, granted, by the time he came back, Bonkosi Khanyile had fallen out of favor. He was not had an opportunity to be in parliament because of the list and sanctions, IEC and whatever. They say him closing that door at 30 years, he was deliberately making sure that the cohort of the Bonkosi Khanyile, the stronghold that you guys have built, you gave us a history with how far you come back with Unyamazane. You were deliberately locked out just so he can build his own structures, his own cadres afresh. So that past history that he comes from, that he knows you from the student command days. So you would not have a chance to survive, because you'd see people say MK is filled with older people, and closing that gap, you guys became a missing middle. You were too old for these young ones, and you you were too young for those, for the older ones, and he strategically and politically made Bunkosi Kanyile the missing middle, and you guys rebelled from there. Is it true? Because it's a rumor that has been in existence.
No, it's what we suspect. Indeed, we wouldn't put it past him.
Yes,
you are correct, my brother. We wouldn't put it past Floyd because Floyd, I know him from the days of the UClick, YCL, not just in the EFF. I know how he operates. That's what I said even in the podcast with Zuma. That is a factionalist. Yeah, but when he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to. And he will deal with you systematically. So he will use his powers, he will use the organization, he will use the constitution towards his advantage to deal with his political opponent or enemies or whatever, you know. So I wouldn't put it past him that he did that thing for removing Onyamazane and removing that radical youth that maybe would have posed a threat to him or I don't know. And then he wanted maybe to get the younger ones that he can easily manipulate, easily control, easily manage, because he know that there's no way that he can manage.
It was going to be difficult. So Okanyile came in for, and I was joking my memory. I think it is January, and by March, when we started March, he was already taken out. But the 2 months that he served at MK, he did so much. He did so much that it somewhat dwindled down when he was taken out of the political periphery. And I just want to understand, how did it damage you? Because Mchana Kanyile was moving. Towards May 2024, he was moving, and people knew this train was coming. And when the wheels came off, what happened? Did you feel that you are losing ground? Was it him being silenced? So the rest of you, was he becoming a threat, or was the IEC matter too dodgy to say, let's put him aside? Because we were expecting that after he serves his things, he will then come back, because there was a huge gap. And then the 30 years, of course, you spoke about the 30-year gap. MK needs someone like Kanyile to come back. MK needs you guys to come back, and you being set aside. It does a lot of big damage for the organization. I just want you to unpack it for you. I mean, the great years of experience that you guys have gathered in student politics until now. What went through you guys when you saw him being taken aside?
Well, of course, that time it was a difficult time because we removed. It was 4 of us.
Yeah.
It was Kanyile, the president, Thapelo Maisha, the deputy president from Limbombo. It was the SG that time, Khan, and then it was myself as the secretary of Gauteng. The provincial secretary, which was a bit puzzling for me. Would say, hey, why am I the only provincial leader removed? Because now I'm not a national leader.
Yeah.
Why remove me in the province? But again, in the revolution, you must expect such things to happen. And when they happen, you must be strong enough to withstand that particular, point in time. What is genuine is tested on the fire, obviously. So in controversies where we are not entitled to positions, So even when we removed, obviously wanted an explanation to why, what happened. But ultimately we accepted that the organization is the one that gave us the responsibility, and if they want to take it again, they have all the right to do so. But what I can tell you is that towards Floyd, that period when Floyd was joining controversies, there was a resolution that were to be reinstated, because apparently there were some complaints that were there surrounding us and our leadership and our conduct and all those things, which we started to work with the leadership. And there was sort of mentorship, training of all sorts of those things, and there was an understanding. We would not spell our young people who will do mistakes from time to time, especially with President Zuma. He was very clear that the young people must be nurtured and so forth. And there was a resolution that this youth league must be reinstated only for it to be
30-year cap.
to be stopped when
Yeah.
when the men came and then they proposed that thing of age. So that's where we actually now dealt with and defeated. But we always said that it doesn't matter who leads the organization. You know, no one is special in the organization. Even him, he said it himself when he joined that even if he is deployed to go and put placards, he will go and do it. So that's why we actually say that for you to test your loyalty and your discipline in the organization, it must be even when you are removed, when you are not deployed, when you are not appointed anywhere. And then we can see if you're a real member of Umkhonto, if you love the organization genuinely, or you are here for your self-enrichment, you just want positions, you know. So, you know, so our removal, my brother, in the youth league, in the way that I analyzed it, it did cripple the movement of young people because we had a clear program of action, we had a clear slogan which was submit or fight, and that was the spirit that we were spreading across the organization in all structures, that young people must stand up, take matters into their own hands. You know, wanted to build a radical and a militant youth that will usher in freedom, that will, you know, be in the forefront of the struggle of Umkhonto. So that is what we were doing actually at that time in that youth league. But, you know, sometimes too much radicalism, too much militance, it sometimes
It
makes
scares
other
people.
uncomfortable.
It scares people. Sure.
So that's what happened with the clique. Yeah.
So, let's talk about the vacuum first before we come back to the likely successors in the position. So, there's a vacuum, and MK, and I'm one of those who criticize MK performance in Parliament, and not strictly to an individual, but the coherence of a lot of great minds, because it's not absence of great minds. It's just coordination of these people. It could be leadership not in coherence, but let's talk, for example, because I want to talk about I would have deliberately, you know, made you a collective with the fullest guys like Kanyile. You are ready, you are cooked. You may just be planted in Parliament to germinate, and we see the seed there. But you have not made those lists to go to Parliament. And of course, there are people in Parliament that could be channeled in a great way to do what, and sort of for the comparison, to do what Sinawe is doing, to do what Sikolonzi is doing. You could do that. But we find comrades who are there who are not doing it. And people are blaming you. Rightfully so. When I spoke to Mzwanele Manyi, who at the time was a chief whip, I was saying, you guys are not seen in Parliament. You guys are not seen doing anything. The EFF went to court for vet, and they pushed in Parliament, and you were blamed. Just tell us a bit of because for those who would want then used to use education as an excuse, you guys have been in education. Just explain, what did you study, what are you studying, and what did you qualify as, Lebu Kanyile, and then we'll talk about why are you not making a list to Parliament, and because South Africa needs to see people like you in Parliament, but we are not seeing you. And how long is the delay going to be? we don't want to see old people. They are too careful there in Parliament.
It's not you who's going to decide.
Yeah, we know.
Who's going to go to Parliament?
Yeah.
As I said before, man, the organization exercises its wisdom when it appoints people, and we trust that wisdom, you know. And it's true, there have been complaints, and I've been hearing them that we're not seen enough in Parliament. We had the official opposition, but we're not actually acting towards that, you know. And you know, you might agree with them that it's a genuine, you know, cry and a genuine concern. And I think that perhaps maybe in our Parliament there's no synergy among the members there. There's no coherent program, and you know, a clear program on how they're moving, because there are a lot of comrades there who are very sharp who are representing the organization very well. But I think we still need to strengthen it. We still need to, add value to that parliament. It's not all broken. It does not that we must change everything and fix, but we need to reinforce with certain comrades then to ensure that we send sharpshooters there. People will be clear, who are articulate, who are eloquent, who will be able to clarify the position of the organization in terms of the policies, legislation, and whatever. We do need that in Parliament, but it's not to say that it must be a specific individual and who and so on and so on, because doing that now, you are sowing a division of some sort, like comparing members and making as if someone is special than the other. But there's a lot of talent within Umkhonto weSizwe. There's a lot of talent in the party across. So there's a huge pool that the organization can take from of young people that can go and represent the organization very well there, And I don't think it's only about education. In as much as education is important, it's very much important, but it's not only about it, because to be a leader, it doesn't mean necessarily that you must have a qualification. And some leaders are born, some through their natural wisdom, through learning, through the journey of life, they can actually, provide even more than those who are educated, So that is why we're always saying we must be able to balance education with revolutionary theory. We must be able to strike a balance between the two. We must not just be an educated emptist. We are educated, but we are the emptist. So it's important. Myself, my brother, I just graduated in the diploma in human resource management from the Tshwane University of Technology. It's been a long journey before I arrived here, because I was supposed to have graduated some time ago, but due to student activism, being persecuted, being charged in the university because of representing students and strikes and all of those things, it took me a longer, but I persevered. I knew what I couldn't give up. I had to, at the end of the day, obtain this qualification, including even my brother, Kanye, it took him some time, because you remember he started at MUT when he was expelled doing his final year because of student activism, but then he went to DUT, where then he obtained his qualification. He was doing public management. There he did his BTech, and then went to UKZN, did his honors there, and then he also went to VET, studied law there. So we are comrades that are educated in Umkhonto weSizwe, because there's a notion that abantu bamkhonto abafundile esifundile emkhontweni sifundisa umulini uBrian Molife
sure
graduate nje UNISA, and there are many who have been graduating and ngabale bonke who are active in the ground. Even here at TUT, they were graduating from different institutions. Comrades were graduating of Umkhonto weSizwe. Commanders, they are educated, and still more are still coming, because student movement is corner, the manuvers, and it's grooming young leaders, it's cooking those leaders, and they're still soon to graduate and join the mainstream politics in the motherboard and in the communities,
Yeah, so you do have strikers. You just made sure that you planted that, and of course, I've worked with you on the ground while you are mentoring the student movement leadership that is currently in Tshwane. Now let's talk. Parliament is going to be capacitated by the Karl Marx of Mahonisi, Floyd. That not jailing stuff, let's hope Floyd will go and assist there. Here's the gap. And I know when I ask people, they would say, it's not according to me. Of course, it's not according to you. All I'm asking is, who amongst the individuals that you see, they've got capacity within MK, that you could say, you see this one. I'm not saying Zuma will elect this one, but you see this one. If the National High Command can recommend people like this one, just for that head of the secretariat, it will capacitate MK better. Who amongst the comrades that you know would do a better job?
There are many, my brother. There are many. To actually mention them by name, and single them out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's to do justice.
Yeah.
But there are many young people, there are many leaders in Umkhonto weSizwe, and counting them actually won't do justice.
Do you think a young person can take that position at MK? Of Secretary General.
Oh, you're speaking about SG?
Yeah, I'm talking about the SG position now that Floyd has left it vacant.
Talking about MP.
No.
Members of Parliament.
Yes, no, not members of Parliament. The list is still debated. We have seen leaks going up and down. So let's talk about the SG position. Like amongst the few, and I want to tell you straight up, I don't say a young person occupying that position.
Of course.
It's impossible. You can't be less than 35 and go into that position. It's too strenuous. By the time you leave, you'll be 65. Who amongst the people that you know, the cadres, whether they are willing or not, but you would say maybe the National High Command can recommend these people to the Commander General. Who amongst?
As I've said, mina ngiyamthemba kakhulu ubaba uZuma. Nesihleli phansi ecabanga ibuka amagama ukuthi ubani ongangena. But maningi ama-comrades, man. You can even reshuffle someone who was in that position, ambeke new position, or bring in someone completely new who was not in the high command. Or
like Tony again.
I doubt, but I don't know. Anyone that Ubaba will actually give us and then say this is appointing, will rally behind that leader, will trust that leader. The same way that we did with Floyd, when he was appointed and given to us, and the previous SGs. So what we did, until someone now do wrong things and then don't lead the organization correctly, that's when I will start to call them out. But there are many people in Umkhonto weSizwe who can be SG. And at some point, I do argue we do need a young person to lead.
You need it, but you can't get it.
We need it.
I can bet good money here. I can let Arfake Zaka. When they announce you'll call me Mashiane, let's check. I bet you.
No, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. That maybe for now, it's too early.
It's too early
for that to happen. But I'm saying at some point, there's a generational mission, a generational call. We need to see young people, former leaders of the clique, actually going into strategic positions of the MK. If we are really serious about this revolution that we are leading. And it's not something that it should be starting with us, that we're taking from our head. It's to teach us that it has happened. The generation of Abo Mandela were able to deliver the likes of Walter Sisulu as SGs at a very young age. I think it was 31 or 30 something here, around those age, 32. Abo Tambo, they led the ANC very young, and that's where the ANC got revived. That's where the ANC went back to its roots. It led the Defiance campaign. That's where Umkhonto weSizwe was launched through that youthful leadership that now occupied the positions of power within the motherboard. That's where the ANC galvanized the society, mobilized society, and became irrelevant as a fighting force of the people, So even Umkhonto weSizwe, at some point, it must use its guns, it must take out its best guns, and that is young leaders who would have been groomed in the youth league, who would have led and gained the necessary experience and consciousness to take the MK forward, So we do need such leaders.
MK says it believes in the power of women, and it only has Mam Kize there. I remember at one press conference, at the time, I don't think Mam Kize was there, and they spoke of their confidence in building, because the question came from the floor at the press conference, and we've since seen Mam Kize leading. And I have to tell you, I spoke to her in Soweto. She's coming well. And if you have to credit MK, and I tell people that Mam Kize is one of those examples of, you took someone from nowhere that we did not know. We're not saying that person did not exist in politics, but we did not know.
Of course,
and these people who are start seeing. For example, one of the best spokesperson in the country, Ken Ndlela, and most of us did not know him before MK. You understand? So it's one of the credits that we should give MK. But here is a matter that people were shooting me down when I was saying, because I was telling them, maybe you guys believe in democracy so much that it even clouds your imagination. when they even talk about Traore, the reason people are not warming up to Traore is because they think democracy is the best way. Duduzile Zuma has showed how resolute, leading behind the scenes. She's been marshalling an MK force from behind, and I mean the leaks have just proven how powerful she is. And people were saying, MK Tower, and I was telling them that contrary, MK is now even winning by election, something that we were struggling, because I made podcast say, guys, why is MK struggling? Because it's the biggest of the parties outside the GNU. Yes, but in by elections it's struggling, and even DA is taking, but MK now started winning. When I spoke to Bongani Baloyi, at the time he had 5 councillors. Now he could be having 6, 7, or 8. I can't remember. I lost count. So, but you guys are winning. Here is the person, Duduzile Zuma. I said she could be the president of this country one day, and people said, "Oh no, she can't be." Just tell us, the kind of leader she is, because she's silent. She hardly speaks. She will not even take an interview. Even when she goes to the people, she would hardly even. She will just greet, smile, Abusheni or anything, and then she goes back to her. But she's marshalling great generals who are out there working, and people were not aware. It was just a rumor. Now we have confirmed that she's actually marshalling this thing from behind.
Yeah,
it's a mark of a great leader. People don't like her. But it's a mark of a great leader, and she's possibly the person who can be the president of the country. People think president of the country must be liked by everyone. This is what they think.
No, Commander Grenade is a leader, man. She's a leader. She's one of a type, And I think what she falls victim to by most people is the fact that she's born by the president.
Yes.
Now, so people tend to, when they want to view her, they view her according to her father, to say, no, this one is privileged.
It's because of
the father.
Yeah.
But, Duduzile Zuma is a leader in her own right, is a leader and a member from Mkhonto. I always argue this thing, why must she be punished because she's born by President Zuma?
Yes.
Why? Because all of us who are members, member MK, and they don't get vilified for that. And on the contrary, Duduzile Zuma is a very decisive leader, a very stern leader. She stands her ground. She stands in what she believes for, and I think those are the values and qualities which are needed in a leader, especially in a female leader in Bogodo. In the political space, for women leaders, the space is toxic for them. It's not very welcoming. It's not appreciative of women leaders. And for her to put a foot down, to say, I'm here in this space, whether you like it or you don't like it, and she's not moved. For me, I'm very warned by that.
Yes.
And in fact, she reminds me of Mam Idelic Tambo, or Mam Winnie Mandela, or Mam Lilin Ngoyi, and so forth. And I think we need to embrace and appreciate her. And yes, of course, one day this country, we will have a female president. We'll come to that. And Africa started moving towards that. Look at Namibia, where now there's a woman president leading, and she's doing so much wonderful things. There are so much progressive changes that are happening in that country. And why not Duduzile then? Why not? If not her, then who? So there are a number of women also, because it's not just her, who are actually being groomed and who are growing in the Mkhonto Sizwe. And you are correct that Mkhonto Sizwe, one of the things that it's doing is that it is grooming a crop of new leaders.
We didn't know.
The people that you didn't know.
Shelley Brown, Mary Pahadi.
Yes, you see.
10 women.
Very strong.
very strong women. And it rubs men off. Men are not used to a woman who's not being allowed to be pushed.
Exactly.
Those women refuse to be pushed.
Exactly. Especially men who still remain untransformed, who remain unconscious of the society that we're building, of a future that we envisage, that we want to achieve, because some, they are still stuck to their backward ways and backward thinking and so forth. And that is how they were brought up. That is how where they come from. And part of being a revolutionary is not just to learn, but it's to unlearn some of the things that society have taught you. Because remember, in South Africa is a capitalist society, and capitalism in its nature, it's patriarchal. It oppresses women, and that is how we've been wired as men, that we must dominate every space that we are. It's in show 5 now.
Sure.
But in the country that we want to build, in the future that Mkondo would want to usher in, it must be able to recognize the women leadership, the contribution of women commanders, and recognize us as equal leaders, equal members in the organization. Yeah.
Is it a deliberate ploy? Because I need to understand this. One member of MK, Ntiki Mazwai, she's not taking it kindly that Ubaba is allowing the feud between Wisim Kwebani and Mary Paddy to spill to the floor, because I said a lot in this podcast that I would hate to lose one of them, and I would hate to see one of them losing what is a fight. Is it better because it's two women fighting? My problem is, what if we lose both of them? Because they are both cadres. They're just gifted differently.
Yes.
Mary Paddy is a strong, street smart, ground force, and by all forms of respect. Commander is that advocate is a very learned, administrator and corporate
motherly
person and motherly ground person, and it would be sad to lose one of them.
Of course.
And do you not think there's a delay, or maybe the delay that we would have wanted for Ungamalala to come and intervene, just so to save one, just to save both of them? Because we are saying, why don't you just take it to Parliament, because there's space in Parliament?
Of course, and I believe that President Zuma is indeed the person that is going to intervene and correct what is incorrect there. But you are correct indeed. We need both of these leaders.
South Africa needs women.
Yes, we can't afford actually to lose even one of them. And I believe that a political solution there is the one that will actually, solve all of these things, and it can be found and it will be found, because ngiyathemba kakhulu ubuholi kababa uNxamalala, because siyamdinga umama uMary Paddy, siyamdinga futhi nomama uadvocate Mkhwebane emkhontweni. So I don't think that maybe the rift there is somewhat something that is too big to be
solved.
I don't think so. I don't think they just need to find each other through the facilitation of a higher structure, an elderly leader like President Zuma, whom I believe they both respect, and they can come into an agreement and a consensus to resolve this issue.
Yes. So in closing, today, Gidi 5. We are just about almost a week, 10 days away from June 16. We don't have a national program that we have heard of from the MK youth. And I know you are not there. This just shows you the death of the leaders. Are they not taken serious? Are they not, I don't know of a national rally where you guys are going to go to as the youth of MK. And I know you're not in the national leadership, but as the useful ones within MK, do you know of anything that the last time we spoke about youth programs, and regionally and institutionally, it's going to be very difficult to drum up support for the whole nation. Do you know of anything, and anything that you could invite us to?
Personally, I was invited by the provincial secretary of KZN, Comrade 7, Memela. They are having a youth rally at Uku, in Uku region, in Port Shepstone. And I've actually honored the invite to say that when I'm invited and called into a program of the organization, it's where I will respond and then actually go and attend. So that is, for me, that is the program that I know about, that I've been invited to, and which I said I will honor the the invite, especially because we know I'm a poor working class. If the logistic arrangements, I'm able to fix those things of transport and so forth, I will definitely be attending it. Yeah.
No, thank you very much. In closing?
Now, in closing, we want to say the MK party is here to stay. Umkhonto wesizwe is here to liberate the African people. Umkhonto wesizwe is growing on the ground. And we want to tell young people across in the communities, young people in TVET colleges, in universities of technology, young people in the workplace, that they must join Umkhonto wesizwe, they must be counted, they must be part of history in liberating South Africa. The time is now. President Zuma is giving us a platform, is giving us an opportunity. Let us not miss this opportunity. Let us lead in the forefront. We are the future leaders of this country. We must take matters into our own hands.
Eitada, Mashiane Politically Correct. Thank you very much.
Salute.
I hope you had everything. Eitada.